Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 24 of Thessia. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and a big thank you for all of the support during our Thessia live stream. Had a lot of fun building a little custom botanical garden on the sort of park headland at the edge of the pier near the marina. So thank you for hanging out and getting involved with ideas. Got a great amphitheatre builder in here from the Central Park unit, using it as a sub-building. Very fun with a bit of backstage prop detailing as the foot of the Adelaide skyline. A lot of fun, isn't it? Thank you for hanging out. Really appreciate it all. And we did also try our hand at a little bit of Twitch streaming as well after the crane fiasco last week. But today we are going to be doing a homage to the King's Park in Perth. A big botanical garden with tennis courts, war memorials, open green space, nature reserve space. Lots of cool things all hanging about in this massive park that occupies a good chunk of Perth. And we're going to put it in this place, in Thessia. I think we can get some really good vibes going out here, lots of inspiration, lots of layering, and I think a place to honour a war memorial, maybe overlooking the city from this perspective, might be very welcome indeed. So, it should be a lot of fun. Let's build an enormous downtown park and city skyline, shall we? So we're playing with a couple of war memorial props off of the workshop, so we can piece together a few different ones. There's one that's actually a building as well. But we can see that in Perth they're kind of right overlooking the city. They have a very good viewpoint, as you would imagine, for a war memorial. So I think that's where we'll start and kind of scale everything off of that. So do some terraforming, and I think, let's guesstimate it, probably about here. We're to level that out and kind of create this big flat park that we see. Is this going to be a sensible height for us? Of course, don't want to be taller than the actual towers themselves. But I don't think that's a horrific height to start out with, is it? Maybe we could afford to go a tiny bit taller. I would also like to respect this hill left in the park as well. And maybe we can get some kind of winding nature trails that reach the top for an even better viewpoint. Might be quite cool as well, right? So let's go for maybe jumping up another 7 or 8 contour lines, okay? And we'll obviously go with terraforming. A lot bigger than we need it at the start is always really helpful. And how far do we want to come down here? We're going to have to slope this out, of course, so let's go no further than that. And then we'll start cutting in here, creating space for all our facilities to land. There is some buildings in the park as well. It's a really interesting place, this King's Park place in Perth. I'd love to know if any of you have actually been there in real life. Okay, so of course the terraforming isn't going to be this obvious. We will come through and soften a lot of it out for general positioning, but for right now I think I'm going to be pretty happy with that there as the general height for what we should be playing with. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So I think where we're going to have the war memorials and general kind of park space as well, I'd like to also run a key along this as well. So to factor that in, let's go with a couple of park frames here as well, and this will help us align a content creator key, and then we can use that to hold our kind of park structure, if you like, and then terraform around those keys. So let's go ahead and grab our simple city key. I think it's probably most appropriate for this one. We'll also go with the fences as well. And then we'll just use multi-tools parallel mode, say from here, probably to the end there, I think. I don't really want the whole thing to be keyed. I think it's a very tall key wall, isn't it? And then once we do have that in, I think the softening will become our friend, just to hide a little bit of it that we don't want exposed. Like, I don't want it to be a huge key wall, just to kind of hold the war memorial park, if you know what I mean. So the render distance will drop out a little bit. You could of course use ultimate level of detail to stop that happening, but you would absolutely murder your frames in the process of doing that. But I don't think that's too horrible, is it? Kind of blends in with the texture of Thessia's ground as well, doesn't it? It's not totally obvious that it's there, but certainly something that we can have fun with. So we'll leave that in there, and we know this is where we're going to have a lot of our parks, and we'll place in one of our war memorial props, right, and see what the view is like at the minute. Make it down to singular, and we'll have, no, it's going to be this one. There is actually a bird on top of it at the minute, so something along those sorts of lines is what we can expect to see, right? I think it's a pretty impressive spot for a war memorial to sit up here, isn't it? Should be pretty cool. But anyway, we're all getting our structure in right now, anyway. So I'm happy for the War Memorial Parks. There's also lots of gazebos, there's car parks and botanical gardens as well, which we'll definitely get involved in. But now I'd like to turn my attention toward how we actually get into this park. So let's start doing some slope terrain here, up to where we know we're going to have our main War Memorial buildings. And I imagine we're going to enter from sort of around here, so let's keep it kind of flat, and then we'll begin to snake up this hill here, kind of start to change the shape of that mountain a little bit. Okay, then once we've done a chunk of it, we can just come in and do a nice bit of softening around here, I think. That to create that way up into the park itself. So I think what we'll do with the local connections is actually bring out a little 4-lane here, because the park itself in Perth has a really cool entrance. It kind of goes from a 4-lane and splits into a roundabout, so we'll try and honour that where we can. So I think we'll use this connection here to actually come out of downtown. And probably feed it over here, I imagine, because we're going to have a lot of outer line suburbia here in these spaces and then run up to the city. So I think this would actually be a good spot to have a local connection back into the city as well. So let's come on to our road guideline snapping and we'll send these up just a little ways for right now. Let's go for, and then we'll take this one off. I imagine it's going to meander around here and we'll keep a little couplet system going for the time being. Probably create another junction on the national road as well down there at some point. And then this one will also mimic that as well. Just send that on its merry way, linked up with those road guidelines, and everyone should be happy. And then we'll feed our one-way roads back into this arterial system over here. A little bit of node controller. Also required just to get things shifted how they should. Cool. So our park entrance will go for, let's say, what about here would be a good shout, I reckon. So again, we're just going to create another one of these Aussie roundabouts, kind of similar to what we did in Valkyrie, which I know we did have a few skeptics actually about this junction, so let's head back now the city's older and see how it's performing. It's still really well, right? These lot of kind of roundabouts fused into a dual carriageway. I'm seeing them quite a lot on Google Earth looking at Australian inspiration. And they're very tasteful, aren't they? You know, they work. Really nice flow to them. So I'm happy to have, because this is basically how you get into at Kings Park in Perth anyway, so be happy to have a similar entrance over this way again. And we probably won't actually upgrade this one into highway, we'll keep it just regular. And I think we'll actually feed the opposite roundabout into the same junction, and then we'll just use move it here to widen things out. Touch a node controller will go a long way just for squaring off these larger nodes. And then we can do something a bit more impressive with intersection marking tool, and a little bit of surface painter always goes a long way for builds like this, isn't it? Okay. Cool. So we'll have that there. We'll also have our 3 lanes coming here so people can turn off if they need to. And then I think we're just going to snake up here with a 2-lane road. But the 2-lane road in Perth actually is kind of a brown burgundy brick colour, so I think we can achieve that sort of vibe with a little bit of IMT decal sort of work. So we'll feed this road right up to the top of the hill where our main War Memorial Park is going to be. Something like that should be decent enough, and then we can bring off some frames here. And then we'll come up to this part of the build in a second, but now we've got that road in, let's do a little bit of network multi-slope. We'll go from top to bottom. Let's say hello people. It's a pretty steep road, but we're on a pretty big park here, so I'm happy for that to come in. And then where we do have those rougher edges, we'll just do a little bit of softened terrain around the edge just to blend it back into that sloping that we did at the start. And that should factor it all in. So basically just driving through a lot of trees on the way up to the park here. Once you get to the top of the main area. I think it's a nice little entrance. I'd be happy for that as well. Just also noticing there could possibly be, I might probably ruin a bit of IMT here, but I think it might be somewhat worth it if we were to come in. And then again, that is going to be interfering, isn't it, with the highway junctions, which I don't really want them to be doing. Especially if they're going to use this as a quick route to get back on the highway, I'd rather them come through the proper systems that have been set up in our Downtown Road Network episode. So I think we'll probably actually leave that connection. But either way, that gives us an entrance into the park and also a new couplet system to feed into eventual outer-lying Eggalade suburbs. Which, by the way, I'm still kind of mooching around Australia for general outer-line suburban inspiration, so if you have a suggestion, do leave it in the comments below. I think it may be a Gold Coast inspired suburb out this way, perhaps, because we are somewhat near to the beach. Cool. Also realize we do have some, well, I guess resource painter work to do here as well, because we do actually have a lot of oil under the ground here, which we will use because a lot of, well, there's a big chunk of the park that actually looks pretty dry and quite arid. I'm guessing maybe a type of tree that has to have that there for some reason. So although I want the vast majority of the park to be green, I do actually want to maintain some of this darker oil texture, so we'll definitely have that in when we get there. But we've got an entrance and a little plinth now. We can start to form the main sort of bulk of the park, sort of visitor and arrival centre at least. So arriving at the top of the park, we're going to switch over to some poorly maintained service road here for our parking lot roads, and we'll generally plan out the structure of the park using these things here. So we're going to have sort of our main, obviously, War Memorial Centre over this way. So let's prepare a car park that's going to come over and service that one over here. Cool, so hopefully a significant amount of parking space, at least for the main War Memorial Park, that will sit over here. I'd also like some more parking over this side as well, because I do want to also pay respect to the boab tree that is also in this park as well. We actually have an excuse to use that content creator tree that we got ages ago, but we'll have that in today's build as well. Let's factor in that car parking while we're also on the subject of it, so we kind of know what frames we've got to work with. Let's bring this one kind of around the back of the hill here. We also have some connections into the park off of this as well. And again, this boab tree looks like it's got a pretty impressive view to what eventually I imagine will be Thessia's airport on that side of the riverbank. I think that's where we're going to use it. There's ferries now as well, moving back into downtown. They actually go back to Valkyrie now. We added a new line during the live stream. If you haven't seen the live stream VOD as well, leave them on a second monitor or something while you play along. It's always a fun idea to kind of catch some inspiration from those live VODs. So they're in the playlist and on the live tab on the channel if you haven't checked them out. But I believe this particular boba is called Jija Jamulu. I am probably enormously butchering that, so please do accept my apologies in advance. But we're going to bring in a little 2 deep roundabout using the service roads here, just at the head of a parking lot. We'll have that there. I need a little bit more room here too. Let's go ahead and push that out so we can breathe a little. So it's not actually in the middle of the roundabout itself. Let's go ahead and surface paint this up so we know to detail it with trees and whatnot. But the path network actually kind of comes down this way from the main park, so we'll hopefully see people walking. And what we will do is actually turn this into a park life area and have park life assets, so we can see people actually walking around here once the build is done. But there's essentially kind of a semicircle of path that hooks around this way here, somewhere like here. Now if anyone's ever been to the King's Garden, King's Park, I'm going to get it named. I'm going to get that name wrong all the time. It's either Garden or Park. I'm pretty sure it's Park. King's Park is what I'm after. I'd love to know how accurate this is for kind of positioning. Oh, it's not even remotely centered there, is it? We'll have to make sure we do that. Let's move it across ever so slightly. That should be okay. Much more surface paint are required there as well. But I think that should be pretty cool, okay? So definitely try and represent some things that we actually see in Google Earth. This should be a pretty cool sort of just feature to have, isn't it? Actually a pretty cool way to use the boab tree. We actually did have, because you guys wouldn't have seen it if you're not enjoying the live VODs, but in our botanic garden build on the stream, which by the way, how great are these little planters? We actually got in the street view in the botanical garden in Sydney and did some detail in here. But we centralised a boab tree in the botanic garden. How cool is that? With the bridge behind it as well. So I guess now downtown Thessia has 2 boab trees. I'd actually let you guys come up with the lore as to why there are 2 boabs in Thessia. I will leave that up to you guys to decide why there's 2. But I'm really happy with that, right? But we're spending an awful lot of time talking about boab trees now. because I really like that design. But very cool. So we're seeing what looks to be like a massive indoor botanical garden on top of here. So we could use the actual botanical garden here, of course, from the park buildings, which is okay. I don't mind the vanilla one, but I think we can probably achieve a better job with some university buildings. So we do currently have some university demand. Now, we're definitely not strangers to using university assets away from their intended purpose. And I think that actually a liberal arts, either library or auditorium or combination of the both, might actually be quite a nice feature to have up alongside the park here today. So we're going to extend a campus area. Now, I am getting an error in the game that's messing with seemingly education buildings at the minute. I'm guessing there's some sort of clash there. We'll have to dive into the wonderful world of Sky reporting to find out why that is, but that is Future Egg's problem. Hopefully we can get through the episode today without that. So we've got our college campus area here. Let's go ahead and actually add in that botanic park building, or the botanical garden building itself, because I think I would like this up here. Let's go ahead and just shift it away for a second. We'll grab a little bit of dropper, see if we can bring this building across and have it angled there. Seems to snap in pretty healthy there, doesn't it? So we'll have this up here. Hopefully this is going to start drawing some people up the hill. I'm actually hoping people use this park because the parks on the top of the mountains in Orchid Bay, the Sims do not want to use, they do not care for it. And of course, because we're actually playing with a campus area here, we can actually place these larger assets on pathways, which is going to be an enormous bonus for actually just detailing the area, not having to have roads everywhere. So let's just bring down some initial framing. Yeah, so I think the liberal arts labs are going to be a pretty cool aesthetic here. Got a little bit of parking on them now, which is going to be appropriate. Let's also make it the same height as the road itself. We really need a little bit of bobbing, isn't it? Let's go ahead and bob that and replace those trees. So we want to get rid of the alders and let's go for perhaps a palm. I'd like a lot of, I don't know, exotic looking plants here, I think. Can we get something a little nicer? Perhaps a royal palm? Is that going to be okay? Hopefully it should be. I don't mind the vanilla bushes in there. Yeah, see, it's not bad at all, is it? But definitely can tell, again, orientation. Always very powerful, isn't it? So why don't we just whack that on a little 90-degree rotation like that, and that way we're going to expose that inner courtyard to the car park, which probably makes it look a little bit more visitor centre-ish, doesn't it? That's the word we're going for today, I think. Visitor centre-ish. And of course it will still maintain its connection as well. So I really like that, okay. It's going to be quite nice. So there is actually quite a significant bit of infrastructure knocking around the park in Perth, so we could definitely add in some more buildings here, but also with the size of the labs, I think we're kind of happy to have that as the sole botanical build. I think we'll even do a touch more terraforming just to bring the assets around the edge here as well. Or at least a road asset anyway. So go ahead and push this out a touch more. Again, always more room with terraforming when you start is a big help, isn't it? And then let's see, can we come out from here and do some cool road network stuff? I hope we can with a little bit of move it there. Yes, there we go. And then we'll feed this. Around the back this way, get some more car parking. And we'll do some more parking roads here, perhaps even upgrading some of the service road into parking road itself, although we do want to be driving on the dark side of the road, so we will redraw that in so we have it like that. And then service road can probably just trickle back into the existing frames at some degree, like that. Okay, just make sure we're not putting too much concrete down here. Yeah, pretty happy with this here. Also don't want the buildings to be too dominant from down in the city as well, so if we're kind of sat in Morant Square in the middle of the city here, for example, you can't even really see it at all from here, can you? Just about from this angle, I guess. But yeah, it's still pretty subtle, isn't it? Don't want it to become too dominant up on the hill here. As you can see the buildings a little more from this area, can't you? Very nice indeed though. Lots of busy public transport knocking about in Thessia these days. Things that we'd love to see. A little cyclists as well, yes please. We're going to get people cycling up there too, actually. Might be worth upgrading one of these roads here into some cycle network stuff. But there we go, we got our first visitor. Absolutely wonderful. See where they're going to go. They're enjoying it. Oh, it's a great driving, isn't it? Look at that. Really nice. Very, very cool. It's a little bit of a bumpy ride in, but otherwise he's going to arrive at the laboratories. Oh, there he goes. Parking up just about. He's going to get out and enjoy the labs there as well, isn't he? So I'm wondering, just to expand the infrastructure, if we might even be able to have the auditorium up here as well, if we can set it to the same height as the building at least. There we go, that's what we like. So yeah, I reckon we can definitely use this one into the side, and then we'll use our pathways, of course, to get it hooked in. Let's just knock all our current networks back and go for about there. I think I'm pretty happy fusing the auditorium into the side of the laboratories there for a larger kind of park facility, I think. Although I'm no longer enjoying the inclusion of the vanilla botanical garden here anymore. Imagine we'll replace that out for some different assets. And let's move our parking nodes back up. Go ahead and get those hooked into the front of the building to provide its connection. And then all of this can just become surface painted concrete space. At least around the buildings anyway, not on the other side of the pathway, of course. And all this as well, if there's doors and buildings at the back, we can probably add a bit more parking along the back here as well, if need be. But I'm pretty happy with that as a general visitors and arrivals centre, I think, with all the car parking out the front there. It's not too bad. So looking into the wider scope of the park, there's actually like a big road that actually runs through it in amongst all the actual, I guess, forest land itself. It actually looks like a really kind of dry gum forest in Perth. So I want to have that road essentially run around this entire mountain here, and we'll probably feed it into the road here actually that runs out of Valkyrie. Although I don't really want it getting a lot of through traffic through to the city, so it might probably end up banning industrial vehicles from it, for example. I guess we'll just see how the AI chooses to read it. So we'll have this road run all the way around here. It'll kind of open up this valley a little bit between the two main mountain ranges. It's already pretty well sloped from here, isn't it? So let's go from here to here. Something like that I think should be pretty decent enough. Of course, any terraforming work's always going to look pretty horrible anyway, until we come in and sort it out. So we'll bring out just a regular standard vanilla road, should be decent enough I think, and we'll have it meet here, and then we're going to have lots of pathways in amongst all this forest here that link up and over the mountain, around and through it as well, so I want to make sure that this road actually leaves priority for those pathways to come through. Pretty cool. And we can hopefully get a sense of what this is going to look like without the eastern cottonwood in the way. But a really nice view back to Valkyrie there, as you see Valkyrie Brewery. The little docks over there too. Very cool. There's ferries coming back into as well. Avoiding the absolute horde of fishing boats that are out in that bay over there. This road's actually starting to get pretty busy as well now, isn't it? Well, hopefully, we will have to keep our eye on that as the city grows up. But now that the roads are in, it will be interesting to see if anyone does indeed decide to take this route through the park and down into the city. I doubt they will, as I say that. someone comes and takes it. Interesting, isn't it, how they'd rather go all the way up that way than just carrying on the roads here. Might be a case that we actually have to end up... Let me delete that. That is not a permanent build. I apologise, everyone. But yes, we will hopefully... maybe have to upgrade some of the speed here down into the city to stop them taking this road. But we'll wait and see, of course. We'll see what happens with it. Delicious. I'm pretty happy with that. So let's come in now with a little bit of network multi-slope, and we'll go from, say, here all the way up to do a smaller increment than that first of all. Okay, so that significantly slopes it down, doesn't it? Which I'm happy with, because we can just soften all this out and blend it into more gnarly terrain for the park to have. So we're kind of entering more nature reserve vibes here, I guess, than actual park area. Okay, have a little bit of that. Pretty cool there, isn't it? Driving through the gully. Very nice. And then we'll also do a slope from here down onto there as well. Not too much of a change though, is it? It looks like we managed to terraform that pretty accurately. Cool, so that gives me the road that we can have in here. I'd now like to just re-terraform some of the slopes here so it's not as obviously flattened out. And probably nature reserve pathway is going to be the best shout here, isn't it? You can actually get on the street view on these pathways in Perth, and they're just super overgrown. Even though they are actually concreted pathway, which is interesting, we might actually end up having some of these as vanilla walking pathway, I imagine. I think for a general kind of climb up the mountain, a bit of a nature reserve pathway with the decorations and probably a significant amount of network multi-slope required to get this to look good, but you know, you do get steep mountain pathways, so we can possibly have something up here as well as a final sort of beastie viewpoint. Don't want this to be a war memorial up here, I definitely want the war memorial grounds to be down here. But otherwise this should be a pretty impressive viewpoint, shouldn't it? See all the way back to Valkyrie's wind turbines over there. You'd see Sentinel and Benezia, of course, if it wasn't for the mountain in between. But a really good view from up here, isn't it? This will be one of the better views in the city, especially once the rest of the downtown is all developed over by the coastline there, isn't it? Really impressive. Very cool. It's kind of fun and challenging at the same time working with a build of this scale and size in cities, but always a lot of fun. Definitely recommend taking on an enormous part build if you haven't already. We did something quite similar, but not to the same kind of grandiose scale in Ilos, if you remember, with the Japanese garden just outside of the downtown there. But this one is significantly larger than that. Cool, so let's talk about what's going to happen with the main park before we get into some what is going to be a pretty long detail in time lapse today, I imagine. Yeah, I'd like to respect this area if possible, so let's hit some road guidelines. There you go, these three are kind of perfectly aligned, aren't they? So that's going to make the most amount of sense. Let's bring these up, okay, and we want to start centralising a bit of a park mall design in here, I think. So we'll feed these up to the road, that'll be just another entrance into the park, no problem at all. But I think I'd like to do a little bit of a water feature, so there's actually a pool of reflection up here in Perth itself, and I would love to well, respect this, not reflect it. I do have reflections on the brain. So let's have just a little hole here, okay, we'll get our pool in. Nothing too massive because I want to keep this up as well. So again, we'll give ourselves more room than we need. Let's go ahead and get ourselves a little baby water source. We'll come down to as small as we possibly can, 0.01. Just give that a little pause. Drag that down and hopefully fill that space there. Yeah, people in Adelaide are in for a bit of a wet day if this does flood. It's going to rush down and wipe out the city. Hopefully that's not going to happen. And then I think I'd like to have some stair keys actually present in this particular space. So what's the best way to do this? Imagine a road guideline. Let's see if we can go for a full 10 by 10 cube of keys then to create the water reflection pool. And then once we've got that in, we can just drag the water source up to create it like that, I think. Hopefully it won't flood, he says, as it starts to flood. We might need to bring that a little bit further down, but that's going to be alright. And of course these are walkable city keys, so if we hook them into our path network at various points, we should be able to see people actually walking around this, which will be tremendously exciting indeed, because we'll have people actually coming to use the pool of reflection, especially if we can get our war memorial centered nicely here as well. What I might even end up doing, because now I'm kind of seeing the scale of this build in particular, I think we might end up using a bigger war memorial, because there's not that many on the workshop, and the ones that we do have aren't overly impressive at the minute. Maybe even something like the disaster memorial, if we bob it, might be better suited here. Or the Statue of Industry as well, because I think, you know, just to have this tiny little prop war memorial, kind of a little bit underwhelming at the edge of all this grander park space, isn't it? So let's possibly explore, because we do have park life paths as roads, so we can absolutely use some of the unique statues as they're intended and have them function as unique buildings. So let's explore this idea together. We'll replace this pathway here with the park life path as roads, which, by the way, if you don't have them, are really, really great assets. Lets you be significantly more creative with park life areas. So are we actually able to bob? Oh, then again, I guess if it is a war memorial, the flags make sense. It just so happens to be German and Great British and French flags. And Belgian, I guess. So, yeah, I guess it is a World War II memorial for both sides, isn't it? The memorial is in there. The Axis powers and the Allies all in one go. But the disaster memorial, it sort of works, doesn't it? You know what I mean? It's a bit more eye-drawing, isn't it, without being absolutely massive. So I think, with that said and placed, we're going to go with the disaster memorial. And then we'll delete this bit of park pathway underneath there. And then we'll just have our actual park life pathways connecting to what is now park life path as road, so it can still be serviced. And we'll probably ban traffic on this as well, I imagine. Cool. Happy with that there. Oh yeah, it's even got like the inscriptions of the names as well, hasn't it? Yeah, this is kind of the perfect asset actually for a war memorial. I'll be happy with that, so I'll make sure everything's centralised. But it's not too bad at the minute, is it? It is slowly coming together, that viewpoint starting to form. And the things are starting to slowly piece up. But we can now, for the first time, enjoy people walking up to the war memorial. Which is very cool, isn't it? I think it's definitely better having the asset up here, just because, you know, it's going to be functional, it's going to draw people to it. The people are actually here, you know, to pay their respects and whatnot. I think I really like it. Very cool. It'd be fun actually, I just want to test one thing. Could we bob out one of these flags for Terry's Thessia flag? Would that work? It wouldn't work directly, but I think what we can do is actually reduce the probability until we lose one. Say that that's okay, so we can see where we've lost some of our flags here. And we will then search for our Thessia stuff. And so it's a little bit bigger, isn't it? And they're just in front of these spotlights here, right? Maybe we could have two Thessia flags. Now, is it possible if we can just slide these into the earth? Yes, we can. Yes, please. Was it fabulous? Been down to the same height. I know they're pretty. Oh, they do snap back up. That's a bit of a shame, isn't it? Okay then, maybe not bobbing them, but instead, I don't know, I guess is that okay? Does look a little weird, doesn't it? Maybe having the regular flags here in the middle, and then we will have two Thessia flags either side might be the better choice there. I think we'll go for that. But otherwise, it kind of feels now like a good place for a park time-lapse. We've got a lot of tree detailing to do in all this open space, more path networking. And we're going to add a park life area here as well, so we can get stuff like gazebos in. Perhaps develop a little cafe and eatery area for people to enjoy whilst we're up here. A lot of parking to do. And just a ton of tree work and lots of those crisscrossing pathways that we're seeing in Google Earth. And a very thick, dry gum forest as well, it looks like we're playing with in this particular area. And it also looks like we've got some kind of apartments, also maybe hotels / Airbnbs, or just very luxurious places to live in Perth, kind of also enjoying this view. So maybe a couple of little green cities numbers just off of the road here somewhere. And also a lot of IMT to do alongside our main junction, and also with decal fillers to run up the road to get that red brick that we do see in Perth. But either way, a very unique build today, quite a tough one as well. Gonna take a little time to come together, but I do hope at some point. Oh no, that's annoying, isn't it? Look what happens to the key when you zoom out. I guess it's kind of that's kind of a cool design, but it doesn't look like that, of course. But I do like the reflection pool here. Hopefully, we'll actually see some people walk on these keys in the time lapse. That would be tremendously exciting. But either way, let's do some pretty intense detailing, and then we'll be right back. have a little detailing review, shall we? So enormously happy with how this huge park space now sits atop the mountain overlooking the whole city. But we'll head down here where we've just extended the coupler into the road system rather than having it as the 4-lane arterial beforehand, and then we just snake up here with some classic Aussie dry belt as we come into the roundabout, which now peels off up onto this red brick road that meanders all the way up. We're actually getting quite a few people walking up and down here through this real thick forest line that we see all around the King's Park in Oz. And we do arrive at a couple of national park gates, but we'll cover these later as we move around the trails. We're getting lots of inspo too from Google Earth. There's tennis courts here, cafes, restaurants, other smaller gardens, larger buildings. So just got some of our favourite tourism assets in here. Another probable park again where we're getting people kind of sat enjoying the grounds around here, right? It's a really pretty place to come and sort of spend a weekend up here. And then you have, of course, the main infrastructure building. We are getting a few people now parking alongside that major car park here. We'd like maybe a few more assets just to get this car parking a little bit busier. On the alternative to that, we could also reco the laboratories into either commercial or residential, just so there's more calls for people to actually come up this way. And of course, we've got the auditorium sat around the back here now as well. And this really nice kind of arrivals visitor space, I guess. And we've also got that red brick decal running all across these roads now as well. Just some basic pathways to link people back onto the quays, which you can see indeed they are now cycling around, which is just fantastic, isn't it? And then we come up onto this little elevated cafe here. Used the basically like an olive garden, isn't it? Just to have a little cafe, because there is like looks like a restaurant kind of near the site here. So just slightly elevated it with Move It, and then embanked that, or I guess wrapped up that embankment with a walkable seawall key. Just some basic table detailing. Just imagine people sitting here and enjoying a bite to eat, right? You can kind of see the War Memorial over here and all the gardens around it, all very landscape. Very cute place to come and, you know, just sit and have something to eat, isn't it? Really like how this turned out. And then we'll come down into the garden itself. So really respecting the open green space here is the vibe that we see as Professor X enjoys a tour around the War Memorial himself. There he goes, meow. And then we come down onto our central plaza now, which has all been aligned. And there's gazebos around here as well. Unfortunately, no one is using my keys around the reflection pond, which is really sad because I would have loved to have some people come up here, but not to worry. Around the gardens, we do also have some further smaller memorials, because there's lots of different memorials in King's Park. It's not just the one that overlooks the city. They're kind of scattered around the garden. So we've got another one here, just with some basic concrete space detailing, and also doing some surface painter in between node-controlled path networks as well, just to help bring them a little more personality rather than just being basic flat junctions like this one over here. Furthermore, more war memorials using some of our lion statues over here with some basic concrete and bench detailing around them. And then we'll come down here to admire what is possibly and will remain the most pristine view in the whole of Thessia. Very happy that we got the disaster memorial in here. We brought those flags back in. The Spanish and the Italians are now memorialized. Is that Irish? Looks like Irish, doesn't it? I'm not sure. my flag knowledge is clearly off. I'm sure they'll let us know in the comments. I've got two Thessia flags either side of this big open concrete space that all comes up to these kind of engraved names, right? That worked out really nicely for the purpose that we wanted it. And then, of course, that view over the city does remain from the War Memorial. And really nice, isn't it? You know, we'll obviously save the nighttime view. Or, oh no, let's just do it. I was going to say let's save it for the cinematics, but it's too good to refuse here, isn't it? Really cute. It turned out. That was a wonderful view. Teddy's Bridge in the background as well. The marina from last episode down there. All this Adelaide-inspired greenbelt that comes around. And, of course, the skyline itself, not to be forgotten. But really like the way that came out. That kind of big centralised war memorial design. Again, so much inspiration to be taken from Google Earth. And then in King's Park, there is just a lone gazebo this side of the memorial itself. So respecting this over here as well. But in terms of city design, I really enjoyed putting a big memorial green space and a park build up on a big kind of plinth on a hillside with some rocks and forest detailing. A really fun way to use a bit of park space and be creative with the detailing. Furthermore, around this way, we do have some networked fencing on the edge of the road now just to protect it because it is a pretty severe drop down this gully. As the road meanders around, linking up with several nature reserve pathways that now go to several different locations throughout the trail, and the good news is that they are getting used, although the people up this pathway here have a absolutely monstrous climb, relentlessly steep up this way here. And we will see some people actually just sat up at the top, enjoying the facilities, which again could be argued is even better than the view down by the War Memorial, where we do have some lookout towers here. This guy's just stopped for a well-deserved break, which I'm sure she needs after walking up that hill. But there is a couple of lean-to shelters in here, and a couple of lookout towers, just so we have some assets here that will attract sims. And again, these you can see how much taller this is than the memorial gardens further down below, can't you? With all the car parking and cafes and the tennis courts around here, and then even further back down that road that links back through into the city. So all in all, a really interesting build, quite challenging as well to work with a space that's this large. But otherwise, guys, that is going to do it for today. Let's thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed, likes, comments and shares below really do help me out equally as much. If you haven't enjoyed it, then please feel free to leave me a dislike as well. Big thanks again to all the Aussies for shouting out Kings Park as a possible build inspo for Thessia, and I think sitting up on this side of the mountainside to what I guess is the east of the downtown. It turned out really nicely. I'm really happy that it occupies this space when the kind of eyed up the downtown sitting here. Wasn't exactly sure what was going to sit out this way. But a big war memorial park, nature reserves and botanical gardens all the way through it is a real nice choice to go for. I think I really enjoyed this build and hope it somewhat respects the obviously very important vibes that I put across in the actual war memorial garden in Perth. But otherwise, please do enjoy what I'm sure will be some pretty spectacular nighttime cinematics here from this big grandiose view. But otherwise, I will shut up and leave it there. Let's thank you all so much for watching. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.